Welcome back to Old Guy REI. We're doing the next interview on our Meet the Investor series, and today Sam Farjo was kind enough to give me some of his time today. And Sam also has a YouTube channel, it's Wealth with Rentals, that he started. So we'll talk about that and a lot more here with Sam. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Frank. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. I always love chatting with you. Um, so for folks out there who don't know you, maybe you could tell us a little bit about where you're at and where you invest. How long have you investing? A couple things like that.
Yeah, sure. I'm in currently, or I live here, and I invest in my market, and my market is Montgomery County in Texas. So it's about an hour north of Houston, Texas, which is one of the largest cities in the country. So Montgomery County is just north of Harris County, where Houston city is, and I live here, and I invest nearby. My properties are like half an hour from me on average, and I've been investing since 2021. I started the journey in 2019, listening to during COVID with online YouTube and learn about all I can. So I started listening to multiple podcasts on YouTube, and I didn't have yours at that time, so that was but it was since 2019. I took me about a year or two to just to gather all the information I need to uh, press press start on the first property. And so in 2021, I think at end of 2021, I purchased my first property, and from there things got a little busier and better. So and
Great. When it sounds like we started exactly at the same time. Same thing for me. Our story's a little bit different, but we started about the same time. So you're there in Texas. What sparked your interest in real estate? Why are you why did you get started as a real estate investor?
that Frank is probably the most important question that anyone should ask themselves. And for me, of course, it was so through my career, I started to look for ways of making more money, invest my money. I don't want to be I don't want to put the money in the bank and doing nothing, right? Let's like anyone else, right? And so I invested in some stocks and mutual funds and maybe bond things in that nature, right? Stock related, and I've noticed my accounts getting up and down, up and down. And at some point I realized that all this money there doing not much. Every time I tried to spend every time I tried to sell a stock, I was hammered by taxes. Like it was, if it was within a year, it was huge tax cut, and if it after a year, it was still about 15%, if I remember right, because it's been a while. And so I said, well, so this money is staying in the bank, doing nothing. If it goes to the stock, it's not doing much. And every time I buy and sell, I'm making money only when I sell, right? And during this time, all this time is money sitting there. It's not doing anything to me. It's not giving me any dollar, right? You only make money when you sell. And then with all the changes in the market during COVID, I happened to sell my most um, my my most profitable stock, not all of it, but I sold like half of it, and I lost a lot of money because I mean I remember the news coming and the news, and I think at that time they were talking about this COVID thing is real and everyone is being affected and the market's going to go down. I went ahead in within 2 days and I sold my best stock over there, and not all of it. Thankfully, I sold half of it. But then only to realize after maybe a few months, the stock went back up. So it was a lot of gamble, right? And the most important thing to that is nothing in my there's nothing I can do to impact my stock or bond or mutual fund. There's nothing I can do. There's no knowledge I can put in this to make this work for me. Like hands off. I just buy it and I pray that I wish me good luck, wish me good luck to this start is gonna grow up and I'm gonna make any money. And all these months and years, I'm not making a penny, right? So that's when I realized one day I came across a article by Robert Kiyosaki, and it was a free article online. And I was just reading it, and I was like, that article. I printed it out. I started reading it again and again. It was he just put a little bit knowledge in that on how to buy a house and how houses are important, are good investment. From there, I was hurt, and and uh, and I then I started looking up all the information on YouTube, and I said, this is probably the path. This is probably a better path. I need monthly cash flow, and I need money of appreciation, and so that was from there. That was the reason why.
No, that's great. I did read his book as well. I read his book. I I read it once several years ago, and it didn't really click with me. Something was interesting about it, but it didn't really hit me that hard. So I read it again probably 10 years later, and then it really hit. And I'm glad I read it. It changed your mindset, right? Like a lot of people say, it's not necessarily about real estate, but just the mindset of, being a worker and a entrepreneur and a business owner and things like that. So earlier you mentioned your career. What do you do for work?
I work as a like a lab professional in an oil and gas company.
Okay.
Being in Houston is all oil and gas, and so I work in one of the major companies here, and I've been doing this for 15 years now. And I feel like I feel my real estate, on doing real estate on the side, it's has given me such a flexibility and just taking my mind out of the work itself. Because before real estate, all my focus on my work and all the that stress coming from it and politics and all that. But with having real estate on the side, just it just gave me another way of you know it just freed my mind in a way that it gave me flexibility in a way. And so I feel more relaxed than before with real estate on being doing on the side, and it makes me happier to be to tell you the truth is it's I'm happier than I was before. Let's say
Mhm.
just focusing on one job. I want my mind to be occupied with more things, and that way I can. And then also real estate give me the control I needed.
Since you got started in 21, what are you buying? Single families?
So far, single families. Except the last property I bought, which is a single family that has an ADU, or basically it was a bigger property, and then I found a way, or let's say it has an ADU attached to it.
Mhm.
So yeah, single families for the most part, and then this property that I have that I'm working on now is a main house with an ADU attached ADU. And I think that depends on the market. Some markets single family works, some other markets single family don't work.
Mhm.
But for us in Texas, I think both may work. Both may work.
Do you, so how many properties do you have now?
I have now four properties and a land, and I will tell the story about the land for the first time now because it was on your channel because it was some scary moments with that. It was a house in the past, and I'll tell the story maybe at some point if you want me to tell you now, but maybe I'll get to it later on to make this more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, we can chat about it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think I've watched your channel obviously, and your channel is fairly new, but I like what you're doing, showing the progress on the properties that you're rehabbing and the choices that you're making for different, like flooring and cabinetry and things like that. What were you nervous about starting your channel?
Um, you know, I was nervous at the beginning, I would say, because I was thinking it might be like a conflict of interest with my job,
Hmm.
and that was what I was nervous about. And in fact, I was thinking about it since 2022, but I didn't do it until now. And after, just because I was not sure about the how my work or how my company is gonna view if I do something like a YouTube channel. But I would say like I just did it, and I just realized, I'm not gonna stay in this field. Like let's be realize it. I cannot just stay like that, and this is something on the side. So if it's conflict of interest, I mean, I'm not doing it on the company's time. I'm doing it on my time. I'm doing it in the weekend. So all this progress I'm making, and so I was nervous at the beginning, but then I realized, it's at some point I cannot stay like this. So I would like to start the YouTube channel and go from there. And you know, God willing, if whatever happens, happens. But it's fine. We should be okay.
Yeah, that's great. You got off to a great start. I was a little bit nervous with ours. Probably when I first thought about it, and I think you mentioned it for yourself as well. For us, it was a way to document what we were doing for ourselves first, and um, and then I got to thinking that even though this is our second time, our second attempt at real estate investing, because we started back in '07 and we lost those properties and things like that.
Right.
But I was hoping that even though we have a little bit more knowledge this second time around, we're still making mistakes and we're still learning lessons. So hopefully by recording these types of sessions, it'll be able to help someone, or someone might reach out with a question, if they're just getting started or they're nervous about getting started. So I think it's great. And you, on your projects, as far as what I've seen on your channel and just by speaking with you each week, you jumped into a space that a lot of people are afraid of. Your properties do need improvement, right? When we're just beginning, like we started with turnkeys because, first of all, we're out of state investors, but um, turnkeys seemed like a safe way to go because typically they don't need much work and you don't have to worry so much about finding contractors right away and things like that. But you're going through all that stuff. I think it's great. I'm sure you're learning a ton. And um, maybe you could start with your current project, the one with the ADU, and what changes you're doing to it, and then uh, a little bit later we can talk about your vacant lot.
Yeah, yeah. And Frank, I was like you as well. Like um, when I started so just a little bit back, my first property in 2021, I bought it as a new construction. So it was newly built by Lennar, the builder, big
Mhm.
builder, and I thought it would be easier path this way. So I was like you, doing that easy way of starting, and it was ready property. But then the next property, I it needed like flooring, paint, and these things. Nothing fundamental, nothing construction. But This last property I have with the ADU that you mentioned, it was similar to my second property. Now, I forgot to mention my third property was the nightmare one, which is, we'll talk about later. And then the fourth property was too much work and need a lot of permits, and you probably seen that as well. So I'm gonna go back to that one after. But this current property now with an ADU, this one is similar to my second property, which seems like it only needs paint, flooring, what do you call it, the touch-ups, the what Michael Zuber calls it, the
Like
little huh?
lipstick. They call it
Lipstick.
lipstick.
Lipstick. Yeah, right, right. It's lipstick, and I think that but it didn't start like that, Frank. When I started with that property, and if you remember from our meetings, it has a foundation issue, and right, and I remember I discussed with you and the group how can I buy it first, and how do I finance it, because it may not accept finances. And um, at some point I was not I was referred to a guy who was a foundation guy, and he came to the property. He looked at everywhere, and he said, you know what, I don't think you need to do anything. This property is built out of the city. It might be that they put it this way. I see some cracks, but that's not significant. Even though there's he said, you need to just monitor it every year. He said, there's some stuff that on the ceiling or on the walls that are pretty in good shape. Like, oh no, I know we have some foundation crack outside, but he said it doesn't look like this is an issue at this point. And he said, I really like the guy, because the first guy, he gave me a 16,000 repair bill and he wanted to do everything and all the peers. And I said, this guy came in and he was referred to me by a guy I like and I trust. He's an investor. And so when he said that, it gave me a peace of mind, because I would say this didn't start as a lipstick, but but now it is. And I'll deal with it when if the foundation happens. I'll deal with it later on. But as of now, I will deal with it as a lipstick, and I will I'm renovating it, and make sure everything is working fine. And if we have an issue in the future, we'll deal with it later on. But at this point, let's get it started. so so yeah, and this property was a big property. I divided it into two properties. So, and it already have a different a kitchen and ADU, but they were kind of connected. And what I did was, what I really liked about it was, I can close it, make it major house and ADU. And then what I did with the major house, I changed it from 3 bedroom to 4 bedroom. I joined the dining room. um, no, actually, it was 4 bedrooms. The dining room that was in the major house, I put it, I closed it, and I put it as a second bedroom for the ADU. So now the ADU moved from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms, and the main house is now 4 bedrooms. So that was what I liked about the property, and it took some thoughts. It took me to bring my wife, bring another investor, look at the space, and make sure that I can do that. I can put a dining room in there. So that's going well. And so that's a property that I'm working on now.
Yeah, and you had a few challenges too with finding contractors. I know the group that you're talking about is our Wednesday accountability call, and I think a lot of people seems like a lot of people are getting value out of everybody getting together, because it's not just new investors like ourselves, but there are a lot of people in the group that are more experienced and have done a lot of different things. There are people in different parts of the country, as you know, and some great connections have been made. People you find people in your area that you don't even know were around, but they're there and they're offering to help however they can. So that's been a great
This
thing
has
that's
been
worked
really
out.
great. Yes. Thank you for the Wednesday Zoom meeting. I would say it's one of the great ones. If you're watching this if someone is watching your channel at this point, and if this is the first time or any time, just go back and watch all these Wednesday calls, and because they are full of value, and you provide a great value too there to Frank. So being having your experience there has helped me, and I'm sure had helped many other investors as well.
Yeah, and I like some people feel nervous, like you and I have talked occasionally about issues that come up. You have a question, and we have a couple other contractors in the group as well. So I've told you time and time again, don't hesitate to call me if you have a question. If I can help, if I can't help, I probably know someone who can. So I hope people understand that I'm serious when I say, to get a hold of me. I'm not never too busy to help anybody. So I'm glad you have reached out. Um, so this project seems to be going pretty smoothly. I know the house with the ADU is different than the one that you were cutting concrete to run new plumbing and everything like that.
Yeah, that one was the fourth property, and that one I needed to do a lot of work in there, and still there is a lot of work in there, and that was another eye-opening project because I bought it cash. I thought the work will be much less than what I have now, and I started permits with the city. I started. Building permit, electric permit, um, plumbing permit,
Mhm.
and I needed to be a contractor myself because the guy I had there, he is not officially a contractor, and so they needed me to bring an insurance, and I have to go and shop for insurance for contract insurance, which can be done here in Texas. I can contract my own property, so I've been my general contractor and bringing those subcontractor in the to do the work. But yeah, it's been a lot of work in there. That property was 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and now it's gonna be 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and I've been saying that over and over. It's been some time, but it took some time, right? It it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I didn't think about it this way when I started, but now with all the experience I gained, I guess that would help me with the next project. So we basically modified the garage to another bedroom and a bathroom, and so that's the addition to the two bed, 1 bath, and now we have a 3 bed, 1 bath, and we have to break concrete. We have to expand the kitchen to so all that took some time and effort, um, and I would say my biggest learning is in that project is going to take longer than you think, and it's going to take more money than I thought, and but at the end it would be worth it. But still, at the end, it will be worth it because um, you know the money you will bring for rent would be worth the effort, and so yeah, that would help. And thank you for all the help in that project. Like you mentioned, it was I told you a few times, and you right away helped me with the questions I have. So with your experience, so thanks for that.
Yeah, of course, anytime. And just as you're talking, I think you've learned so much, and I'm glad I've been able to be a part of this part of your journey because now you're learning how to deal with contractors. You're learning how to deal with the city or the county or wherever you have to pull your permits. And things are different state to state, right? I think there are some states where the homeowner cannot act as their own general contractor. Um,
Hmm.
so every market has its challenges. You know, we faced one challenge recently in St. Louis specifically where we need to have occupancy inspections done by the city before we can move a tenant in. And we were talking earlier because it took us a long time to fill these units. And then once we did get qualified tenants, we realized that the occupancy inspection is only good for 60 days. So if
Uh-huh.
you don't fill the unit within 60 days, you have to get another inspection. So these are
That's a
only,
good way of making more money.
yeah, they make a lot of money that way. So what I think the point I was trying to make was you can study all you want before you buy a property, but you're not going to learn near as much as you will after you own the property and learn all these things. Um, so I think the experience you're gaining is definitely going to help you on the projects that you'll purchase in the future. Um, you're going to know better what to look for when you're looking at a property, right? So if you see whatever it might be settling in the cracks in the drywall or different things like that, or maybe the floor is a little bit uneven, whether the house is built on a concrete slab or if there's a crawl space underneath it, all those things make a difference. And by
Frank, what? Oh yeah, yeah, and I would say you brought a great point. The From seeing my fourth property and all the work that I didn't expect to be done, and moving to this property with an ADU, I you know my checklist to buy a house or to look in the house was about, let's say, 20 in the past. Like I looked at these 20 things before moving to purchase a property. And with my experience there, my checklist was almost 50 now. It was like it's 50 points that I check in the house. So I did use it to check in this new house. And so I gained a lot of experience, although with all these permit with this fourth property that I applied to the fifth property because my checklist and what I'm looking for in the house is now different. I'm looking at more details. I'm looking at things that I didn't have an idea that they will cost effort and money and thousands of dollars. That now I can look into the new property and I check all these bullet points and make sure that, of course, you're not gonna find something that's gonna match what you want 100%. But if it's 80% okay, 85%, and do you have 15%, or so out of 50, the 50 check after my checklist, all these points, 50 points, if 40 of them, 45 main ones are good, I will move on to buy the property, right? And that's what I did with this property. And even, so that tremendously helped me with what I was looking for, because I do have this system of having a checklist. I look at checklist means, is it in a crime zone? Is it in a flood zone? Is it a busy street? Is it near a train, or is it close to something undesirable, right? If any of that, and then you look at the property itself and the condition of the property. So all these points that I gathered together, and just to look at the next property, it helped me a lot, tremendously helped me a lot. And I wouldn't probably learn that from not doing it. So. I would say this is a great learning experience.
yeah, I think in the future, or maybe even on your channel, you might post your list somewhere to share with other people because at least it's a starting point. And like you said, I mean, you could have 30, 40, 50 items on your list, but chances are there's going to be something that's not on your list on one of these properties, and you're still going to have a learning curve. I
Oh,
think
definitely.
that's a great point because I think you need to write your list down. Um, you will forget if you just try to keep it all in your head. You will forget and miss something in the future. But um, I think that was uh, a great thing that you mentioned, going from 20 items to 40 or 50 items, and just things that are important to you, right? They might not be important to someone else who has 10 or 15 years experience, but for beginners, it's super important and it could save you a lot of money. Um, on your properties, one thing that you remind me is that you need you need to make sure you have enough reserves to get you through your project, right? If you only have $5,000 or $10,000 in reserves, for example, and you run into issues like you run into, that could knock you out of the game right away, or you'll be scrambling to find more money to help you finish the project. What are you comfortable with for reserves? Do you have an amount per door? Like us, we typically say we would like to have $10,000 per door in reserves, and it what I've learned over the last several months is that depending where you invest, what types of property you invest in, you might need more or less in reserves.
So, for the properties I have rented out, I have two properties now being rented. I think, just like you, I want at least $10,000 sitting in the bank for each property, and I think that's I think I think pretty much is the same. I would say for the properties that I purchased and now I'm renovating. I should have money in the bank just for any unexpected thing. Like I have, because this is what happened. Like there was, so I would say between another 10 to 15,000 extra of your budget. Let's say if you budgeted renovation at 20,000, put at least 30,000 aside. Like that, like instead of 20, put 30,000 or 35,000 or whatever you're comfortable with, and that way, because it actually was. I mean, I'm spending more money on this fourth property than I ever thought. I thought it would cost maybe around 25, but it's probably now it's gonna cost me, yeah, up beyond 35. Um, so I would say there's more for beginners. There's probably more risk buying property and estimated the repair. So always put money on the side, and just to be sure that you can continue and proceed what you want to do without having to sell property or get into a financial hurdle. If it's lipstick, if it's like you said, if it's just paint and flooring, that risk there is not as much as trying to go to the we call it to the studs, right?
Mhm.
So, and then trying to increase the bedrooms and bathrooms, because that plumbing takes money, electric work takes money. The other work like painting and 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 drywall doesn't take as much money. And especially if you have the property permitted, the plumber and electrician will cost you more money than without permit. And I would say in my city or in my county, Montgomery County, it's if it's in the city, if the property is in the city, they will require permits, all kind of permits. And if it's outside, which is this one, which is the last one I have with an ADU, it's just at the border of the city, right outside of the city. So it's in the county actually. So they only, if you do anything inside of the house and you're not adding any square feet, then it then you don't need a permit, and so that's a big plus, uh, with that area. And so without permits and all this work, so yeah, you just adjust your reserve based on that.
Do you think about, you mentioned, having permits required in the city and not in the county? Do you feel like some people think, if you have a permit, then the work is got to be done correctly, right? But on this other house, if you don't need permits, do you have any worries that maybe something will get by that's not technically legal or done correctly. Do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, that's a great point. What I did so far on the other house, nothing on plumbing, electric. When I did the inspection, when I bought before I bought the house, the inspector, you know, showed a lot of items that need to be repaired, and some are not much plumbing, but a lot of electric, and of course the foundation was mentioned, and some other items. Of course, the inspection report has everything. So what I did was, so so I brought all these items to my electrician, and I said, I need this to be done, and I want all these items addressed in the report, and especially the panel. There's an outside. There's two panels in the house. The outside one was too old. He replaced it, and he also replaced the panel on the inside too, which I now I remember. But and he fits all the concerns I have. Now, what I can do is maybe spend another $150 and bring the inspector again and make him go through his list, and make sure that you know that everything is now on a safer side. So I think that can be done. That's another solution if we don't have a permit, is to just, maybe you have another idea, but that maybe bring in an inspector again. He will not charge you full inspection. He will charge you partial payment to just check on some items in the house, and that may give some peace of mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And to maybe it's just like a revisit so they wouldn't charge you the full amount again. That's a great idea. Um, now, so you mentioned challenges, things that came up after you purchased the property and you didn't realize, that you were going to need to spend more than your original budget. Um, but but maybe now is a good time to chat about your vacant lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we. So yeah,
So so
it's a
it wasn't vacant when you bought it.
it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot. I'll tell you, it wasn't a lot. So I bought this. This was the third property, and this is the first property that I started posting on my YouTube channel. When I started my YouTube channel, it was at that time last year, I think early last year, March, and I was taking first videos on that property, and you can still see it, and on the YouTube channel, my first videos on that, and yeah, the property at in November, at like mid-November, I got a call. I was at work. I got a so but to give a background, this was an abandoned property that I purchased. The owner is a Canadian citizen. He lives in Canada somewhere, and he has abandoned it for years. Like, he didn't spend any penny on it. The realtor keeps telling him about it, and he it was abandoned. So now all the it was in a bad shape. So there's no electric work, nothing. A lot of damage to the foundation, to the roof. It was it was people got into it and damaged other things because they knew nobody lives there, and probably they tried to took advantage. So I bought it that way. I bought it in an abandoned property. It was in bad shape, really bad shape. You can see the pictures and the videos on the YouTube channel. But so one day, and I thought of buying it and repairing it, and it will take some time, but that's okay. One day in mid-November last year, I got a call, and I didn't answer the call. I was in a meeting, and then I got another call, and probably three times. And after the meeting, I listened to the voicemail, or actually, he sent me a text message. He said, "This is the fire marshal. We are at your property at this address. and I wanted a permission to go inside and do investigation. The property was burned last night. So the property was burned last night, and they wanted permission. They didn't get a hold of me because I was in the middle of a meeting at work. So they called my wife, and my wife called me too after the meeting, and I said, okay. And I said, okay, I saw the message. I saw the message. Okay, tell them to go inside and do the investigation. So the property was burned the night before. They were not there even on site to you know to extinguish the fire. They were there the day after the damage was done. And yeah, at that time, like I, I I I didn't know how to feel about it, you know. And I would tell you, I didn't have big emotions. I know I lost money there, but I bought it in a good price um, that it was kind of not very. I was not very sad about it. It was mixed emotions, I would say too, because it, I know that this property, if I put the money in it, it will be a great house that I can put for rent. And it was that time it was hard, but I'll tell you, till this time I did not go see it. I never. My wife always asked me, and I said, what do I go to, what I'm going to see, a burnt house. And but at some point I will go there and make a video over there and just but I wanted to share this news with you on first time on your channel. But it's different because sometimes I've seen some other people who had a fire calling them, a fire marshal calling them, but they were like trying to go and extinguish the fire, put off the fire. But in my case, this property was gone, and they are calling me the next day. So there's nothing. And I asked him at that time, is it the right side? Because I knew the right side was bad shape and the left side was a better shape of the property. But he said at that time I thought maybe one part got burned and they put it off and then I can work on the other part. But he said no, pretty much it's it's all gone. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would say also it's it's interesting that very interesting enough that the day last month the county contacted me and they said they found whoever made did the fire. And it was two like it was some teenagers trying to get inside the house. And but you know there was a court. I went to the court. Nothing yet on that, but it's uh, it's uh, it's something that we don't encounter when we only have like one house and we live in it. And with investment, there's something that we haven't thought about.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, obviously, to have a property burn like that, but they're all important lessons, right? Because I'm sure you've learned some things going through the process about maybe about insurance and things like that. Should you have insurance on a home that really isn't worth much before you rebuild it? I think, did you pay cash for that one?
Yeah, so you mentioned the insurance. Yes, I did pay cash for that one, and it was almost the price of the land, maybe 5,000 more than what the land is worth there because it was in such a bad shape. And I did not think of insuring it, so I did not have insurance on it. Um, and I should have, but at the same time, um, I realized that maybe it's not insurable. Like it's not cannot be insured at that condition.
Mhm.
But I haven't, to be honest, I didn't reach out to the insurance companies about it. But I think after the fact, after it was burned, I think I chatted with my insurance agent, and I think I think they mentioned it probably not insured, not insurable. So that's probably what. But the lesson now, the lesson is I probably won't buy another property that cannot be insured, and doesn't have electric power to put cameras and to monitor what's going on, because at this property I did not have any way of knowing what's going on on the property. There's no power. There's only water turned on, but there's no power. There's no cameras, security cameras. You know, so that's probably a mistake. Or the lesson is uh, probably the cameras are important. Security cameras are important for vacant properties, and insurance is also very much needed, because at the end, I lost money because the property value at the county was about the structure itself was about 60,000. So although I bought it so cheap, the structure value, the land was about 25, and structure they were taxing me on about $90,000, and so that's what their evaluation is. So I did lose that much money in the property, although I didn't pay for it that much. But it's a lesson learned. Um, and don't buy a property. I think my mistake also is I'm not gonna buy a property again that I cannot work on right away. I cannot just leave it on the side. With leaving it on the side, all these squatters, all the bad people gonna go inside and do damage, and you never know. So that's a big lesson for me. I'm not gonna put money in a property that won't work on right away.
That's a great point. I think even we've experienced things like that because over the weeks we've been telling our story about these three that we have in St. Louis that took a while to rent. And even though there were people, contractors, fixing them up, painting, flooring, whatever they were doing, people are in the neighborhood realized the property was vacant. There was no tenants. So people were throwing trash in the yard and just different things like that. So that's not as bad as what you went through. But I guess what I mean is we need to try to keep those units filled for that reason as well. Because if there is somebody living there, people are less likely to, do other things like that. So, yeah, I know we were really sad to hear that news, but thankfully nobody got hurt. And like you said, the home was in pretty rough shape. When you bought it, you basically were buying the land in the hopes that you could rebuild what was there. Um, these are all super important lessons for people to hear. Also, I wonder what your thought is about, because I've struggled with this as well. You buy a property, like you said, you have 35,000 set aside for repairs. You work all that into your analysis when you purchase the property, but then you spend another 10,000 for some reason for something that comes up. Do you do you then think, oh, this was a bad deal, I shouldn't have purchased it, or this is just another lesson, let's get through it, and the next one's going to be better? How do you look at it when you have to spend more money than you planned?
Yeah, yeah. I look at it in a way that um, it's a lesson, like your certain point. I look at it, you know, the it's a lesson for me not to go to buy such a property in the future. And I know it's a, lessons, they say experience takes money and costs money. So I think this is part of the lessons we have to go through. Um, and like I said in the past, earlier, I developed more checklists. My checklist increased, and now I look at all these details based on my experience with this last property. And I don't look at it. I don't look at it as this is a failure or any of that. I look at it in that this is it's either you win or you learn, and it was a learning experience, and so it's okay. It costs money, but we're not spending money on cars or toys. We're spending money on investment properties, and with houses, things will get things are it's on the upside most of the times. So, and I learned from it, so that's how I feel about it.
That's great. That's how I've decided to look at it as well. And I know um, a lot of time. I appreciate you sharing this, all of your journey, even the bad things, because I think that's where we can probably help people the most, by not just sharing all the good. There hasn't been a lot of great that's happened so far because we're both so new in our journeys, but um, people can learn from our mistakes and our lessons, and that's what, like we said before, that's what my channel is all about anyway. So I know people can reach out to you at Wealth with Rentals. And are you on any other platforms?
Yeah, Wealthfront Rentals on Instagram as well and on YouTube. So Instagram, YouTube, probably Facebook too, but yeah, those are the main two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're okay with people reaching out if they have any questions?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And
Great.
sometimes if people reaching out, and some comments I have was like to correct things like you had commented, and some of these were improvement to what I'm doing. So, and I'm happy to help anyone at any time. So,
Okay, great, great. Well, thank you for giving me this time this morning, and we'll make sure that we post all the places that you're out there in uh, on all the platforms that you're on. And I'll look forward to seeing you. Hopefully, we'll see you next Wednesday. I know, time differences are a challenge. We have so many people. We're in California, you're in Texas, so it's a couple hours different. But we have people like Chester and others that are on the East Coast, and I'm really excited when people way over there join us because for them it's pretty late. By the time the
yeah,
meeting's over, it's midnight or something crazy like that. So um,
yeah.
but but thank you again, and I hope I get to see you this week.
Thank you, friend. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.